So I was taught to hate, and I was taught racism.
Welcome back to Choices. My name is Bruce Hills, and today's topic is multiculturalism. Johnny Lee Clary was a man who pretty much hated anyone who wasn't of his skin colour. As a member of the Ku-Klux-Klan, he worked against any ideas of multiculturalism, believing that white was superior and everyone else inferior. And his story is one of how God can change people.
Well, I was a kid from a broken home. My father committed suicide when I was 11 years old in front of me because my mother drove him into bankruptcy and left him for another man, and I was standing right behind my father, and it was very horrifying. I watched my father take a .45 caliber pistol and blow his brains out with it, and it was so horrifying for me I can't even begin to describe it, what I felt. But right after the funeral, just a few days later, something just as horrifying was when my mother moved her new boyfriend into my father's home, and he took over, and she told me to get out. I found myself living in the ghettos of East LA, and no longer was I a kid who had everything in the middle class. I was now a poor kid around gangs and in a gang-ridden territory from different races of people who all hated one another, and everybody fighting with each other all the time. And I was just looking to belong to something, because at 14 years old I was missing my father very much, and I actually was thinking about committing suicide when I saw a man on TV from the Ku Klux Klan, and I remembered the word Ku Klux Klan from my uncle, which is my dad's brother, being in the Klan. So I wrote a letter to them for literature, and then they sent an older man around to talk to me, and he said, "Son, you've had a horrible life. No kid should have to go through what you've been through." And he said, "What you need is a family." By the time I was 17, I became an adult Klan member. I left the youth corps, became an adult Klan member, and by the time I was 19, I was serving as bodyguard for David Duke, who was the head of the whole Ku Klux Klan in America. And then David Duke, then after I was served as his bodyguard for a while, I became the leader of the state of Oklahoma. And then I became the Grand Dragon. At the age of 20 years old, I was the youngest Grand Dragon in the history of the Ku Klux Klan, and a Grand Dragon is over a whole state. There's 50 Grand Dragons, one for every state, and I was over the state of Oklahoma. And then a few years later, I rose to the top and became the Imperial Wizard, which was the national director of the Ku Klux Klan. What a lot of people think, and they have this misconception that the Ku Klux Klan hates black people more than anybody else. Not true. The person the Ku Klux Klan hates more than anybody are white people who disagree with them. They call them a traitor to their race. They call them Jew lovers. They call them everything under the sun, and they say these people are what's causing us not to be on top and controlling this world like we want to control it. So they want to eliminate all white people who disagree with them. I tried to put together a unity between all these white power groups, and when I got all these groups together, they all started fighting with each other. And then they all blamed me for getting everybody together. They said I should have known better. You know, the Nazis and the Klan, the skinheads, all attacking each other. But finally, the last straw finally came when a policeman told me that he was a good friend of mine, and he told me that the FBI had approached a bad cop that he knew and offered him a deal to plant drugs on me so they could get me off the streets and send me to prison. And I thought, the only reason they're doing that to me is because I'm the leader, right? So yeah, I said, you know what, I'm not going to prison for no one. I said, I'm making the right choice right now not to go to prison. I said, the only reason they're doing that to me is because I'm the leader. I resign. Let somebody else be the leader. I'm not going to do it. And when I resigned from being the leader, that so-called family all turned on me, and they showed me they wasn't family after all. They started calling me an FBI informant. They started saying that I was a double agent for the Communist Party. And they all started saying that I needed to be exterminated and things like that. So not only did I have all the blacks hating me and all the Jews hating me, all the Mexicans and Orientals, but now I had the Ku Klux Klan, the Nazis, and the skinheads hating me. And I became a man that was an absolute island and a man all alone. I thought about how my dad escaped the problems in life by committing suicide, so I decided to do the same thing. But I looked over, and there was a Bible. And I picked up the Bible thinking that I could find some place in the Bible to get forgiveness for what I was about to do. End up reading the Bible, and I just kept reading it and reading it, and before the night was over, I got on my knees and I asked Jesus Christ to come into my life. I said, Lord, I'm going to serve you for the rest of my life. So about a year later, I'm sitting out by my swimming pool, just made Salesman of the Year, had plenty of money, lots of new friends, and I had a book in my hand called New ID in America. And I was thinking about changing my name so I didn't have to deal with people saying, I remember that name, Johnny Lee Clary, and stuff like that. I thought, I'll just change my name. But what happened is that I turned on the television set and I saw young people joining these hate groups. And they would have been about the same age that I was when I joined. And I kept praying. I said, God, you need to send somebody to go talk to these kids. They're fixing to make the same mistakes in life that I made. Send somebody to go talk to them, God. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, wow, what about you? And so I made the decision to go on the mission field, and I'm glad I did. And that's what I do full time now. So I travel all over the world, and I try to be an encouragement to these young people, because if the right people would have been encouraging me for Jesus when I was their age, then I wouldn't have went through all the things I went through. And I said, I learned a long time ago, I can't do anything about the past. What's past is past, but I can certainly do something about today to build a better future for tomorrow. And who better to invest into than the future of tomorrow, which is the youth of today. So I made the right choices to do that.
Johnny is well and truly a man who has been transformed from a life of hate and destruction to a life of love and compassion.